so familiar with God. The God that they thought they knew, that when Jesus Christ is standing right in front of them, they couldn't recognize him.
That's right.
And see, if we're not careful, we can become so familiar with people, with church, and even the Word of God that we'll lose our respect, our reverence, and even miss out on revelation that the Lord is trying to show us that'll help us in our walk, our everyday walk. I mean, think about it. One of the most well-known stories in the Bible is the story of Lazarus. I mean, whether you've been saved for 10 minutes or 10 years, I'm sure you've heard that story of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. But just in case, he was sick, and they sent Jesus a message to come, and by the time he arrived, it was 4 days too late. He'd already been dead. And he came in to these people, his loved ones and his friends, crying out and mourning his death, and Jesus not weeping because of his death, but weeping because he could empathize with those people. He could recognize and see that they were hurt, they were suffering, and they were hopeless. It felt like there was nothing that could be done at that point. But Jesus walks in there and he says, no, roll away the grave. Roll away the stone at the front of his grave. And even with it at that point, it would have been decomposing and stinking at that point. But no, Jesus said, roll away the stone. And he stood in front of that grave and he said, Lazarus, come out. And then in John chapter 11, verse 44, it says, the man who had died came out. But see, if you stop reading right there, if you're so familiar with that story, you'll stop reading and you'll stop at that miracle, stop at the point where Jesus came out, and you'll miss something amazing. It goes on to say, right in that same verse, it says, his hands and his feet were bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with cloth. Jesus said to them, unbind him and let him go. See, because Lazarus had been already raised from the dead, he had already come out, but he was still bound by that funeral clothing. And he had his friends, he said, those people that had been crying, that had been mourning, he said, go and take that stuff off. And I love that is a picture of our salvation, of that gift of salvation, because how many people know that we can be saved, but we can still be bound by the sins of our past? We can be still stinking like death. And Jesus is going right there and he's saying, guys, I've placed people around you. I've sent brothers and sisters around you to help you get unbound from your past, that guilt, that stink of death and sin. So look, don't ever become too familiar with people, because they can become your friends and they can become your acquaintances, but don't forget that the reason that God placed them in your life is to help you get through your struggles, to lift you up. Don't ever become too familiar with church, men and women of God. This is not just a clubhouse. This is not just a community center. No, this is the house of the Lord. That no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're feeling, you can set aside what you're going through and walk in here and know that you're going to get in the presence of God. And don't ever get too familiar with God. Yes, he's the creator of the universe. Yes, he saved you. But you know what? You know what he says? Today is the day of salvation. He says today is the day where your breakthrough is coming. Today is the day where you're going to receive your miracle. And all you have to do is come in and recognize that he's standing right in front of you. So when we go back into this song, I want you to raise your hands. I want you to worship. I want you to look at the person next to you and say, are you going to help me? Are you going to help unbind me? Because God placed you in my life for a reason. Come on, just raise your hands up and worship him.
Let your presence fill this place, and let heaven come, let your angels be released, and let heaven come. We worship at your feet, and let heaven come. Face to face we
lay aside our mess, lay aside what we're going through, and just focus on you. Because when we keep our eyes on you, there's nothing that will distract us. There's nothing that can keep us from your purpose, Lord. And we thank you that we can confidently walk that out.